Toda Rabba, Rabbi Mark, Moshe. Shalom, friends. I want to say Chodesh Tov. I'm still feeling the energy of the beginning of the month of Nisan. And I want to say Shana Tova, Happy New Year. You may know that we have 4 New Years in the Jewish calendar. The 2 most important ones being Rosh Hashanah, which most of us know, and Nisan, the first of Nisan. So much so that for the Torah, this is the first month. This is the first month, and Rosh Hashanah happens in the 7th month. So this is a new year, friends, and I want to invite us to kind of really sit today with this awareness that this is an opportunity more than usual for a true, deep, new beginning. And boy, do we need this. So I want to start with a little nigun. You may recognize the nigun, and I will end the meditation with the same nigun, but with the words. And a hint is that this nigun wants to see itself as a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, celebrating liberation before it happened, because this is my deepest prayer, that we may be free inside, that our brothers and sisters captive may be free this month, free, and that we may be free as people in our hearts and as a humanity. So I'm singing preemptively. Yanda, 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 yanda. Yanda, 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 yanda. Ah, yanda, 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 yanda. Yada, 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 yada. Ah, yada, yada, yada. Hi, ya, 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 ya. Hi, ya, ya. Just feeling the silence, not just hearing the silence, feeling the silence. After the song, if ever you have just a note, if you have trouble hearing me, please put your sound to the max and wear headphones. I have all the equipment necessary. We did sound testing, but my voice is my voice. That will not change. So headphones really, really work. Back to presence, to feeling the echo after the singing. And friends, we know that new beginnings, and we know that liberation, and we know that breaking free doesn't start with singing. It mostly starts with sweat and tears and brokenness. And this is something I love about Jewish texts and about Hasidic wisdom in particular, is that it says it. It just names it. It puts it on the table. And I find it very affirming when I feel heartbroken. And that's the little Torah. I want to share with you today from the parasha, this week's parasha, Tazria, which opens on birth. And one of the first things it tells us about birth is that then the woman will sit in the blood of her purity. And I thought to myself today, why does birth have to be bloody? I could have imagined that God would have made a word. Painful, okay, but why does it have to be bloody? Why does it have to be painful to that extent? And here we are, and it's never a coincidence that we read a specific parasha in this time of the year and also in this season. We're just started the month of Nisan, in which we're all preparing for Pesach, for the great breakthrough. And the breakthrough from Mitzrayim is painful. It's painful. It's bloody also. We have plagues. And it starts difficult, if you remember, when Moshe comes to announce to Bnei Israel that they're going to be free. At first, it becomes more difficult for them. At first, when he goes and sees Pharaoh and asks Pharaoh to let them go, their situation worsens at first. And so I want to share with you a little Torah from the Hasidic master, the Ishbitzer Rebbe, the Mea Shiloach. I'm going to share my source sheet, but really feel free to just listen, to really take it in. Sometimes it's useful actually to not look at the source sheet, because then I don't go back into my kind of brain mode. I just receive from within, from a deeper place, the teaching. So I'm going to share with you just a very, very, very short excerpt of his teaching, commenting on the opening line of the parasha and saying something that really speaks, in my view, to what we're experiencing today as a people of Israel since the beginning of the war. This notion of being in a situation of hester panim, of concealment of the divine. And he puts it in the context of actually when we want something really with passion, when we want to come closer to the divine. As mastir Hashem itbarach or'o. And God, the divine, conceals their light mimenu. And he explains why. Kedei levarer chukato, to clarify, to refine, to clarify. But what's interesting to me here is this. Ad shenishbar libo, shemekir et cheschono. The heart is broken because one sees one's lacks, one's deficiencies. And from there, from this brokenness, then the divine will come and bless. And what's interesting to me here is the nishbar libo, that the heart is broken, and there are many, many, many Hasidic ink has been spent on this notion of a broken heart, lev shavur. And I want to share just a different kind of twist on it today, just a different thought. Nobody wants to have their heart broken, right? And yet, in our own life experiences, just like the Hasidic teachers are telling us, when something is broken, many, many, many times, it really gives way to something new. And so I want to kind of orient the attention here to the positive aspect of brokenness. What can be good about brokenness? I want to let the question kind of hang in the air. Well, it's good when patterns are being broken, because then there is actually something that can move again. Something stops going in a circle like this on itself, and there is some kind of movement. There is evolution. And the thought I want to share with us today is there is the war in Israel, and there is a second war in the world globally. And it's a war of opinions. And if we're honest, we're all hoping that something in the system of the other, the one we disagree with, including among Jews, that something in their system will be broken, that they will break open and finally hear us and finally see things differently, don't we? Don't we have that hope? And so I want to invite us to invite the possibility of what if something could break open within me? What if something could break open within me? What would it be? What could it look like? Can I see brokenness as a positive thing in and of itself right now? So that's the invitation, friends. And I want to invite us today to sit with the heart really, really open. With the body soft. Seeing brokenness now in a different way. Just like the buds, when they break open, it's very graceful, very, very graceful. And it's freeing. There's something freeing. So can I be open to whatever this meditation now is going to bring? Insights, emotional, maybe liberation, maybe a sigh that I've been holding for so long and that just needs to come out of me. So let's sit, my friends. We'll sit in silence until the time of Kaddish. With that intention of really, really, really breaking open like a bud in body, in heart, in mind. And if you find it difficult to stay present, you may use a form of word repetition with your breath, saying to yourself on the in-breath, I open. And on the out-breath, I soften. And for the last minute or so of our seat, can I offer my most beautiful presence? And again, to anticipate the joy of what happens when we break through, when things are broken open. Singing and remembering that these moments, the breakthroughs, happen both through grace. It's a gift of God. It's a song of God, Zimratia. And it's also the fruit of my effort, of my spiritual practice, of my diligence, my strength. Ozi. Ozi vezimratia. Vayili li Yeshua. My strength and the song of God will be for me, for my salvation. Ozi vezimratia. Vayehini Yeshua. Ozi vezimratia. Vayehini Yeshua. Ozi vezimratia. Vayehili Yeshua. Ozi vezimratia. Vayehili Yeshua. And we take a moment. Oops, slicha.
Sorry, no.
No, I just wanted to say thank you, to thank ourselves, and right back at you, Kaddish.
I'm sorry, Mira. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, as always, for leading us so beautifully, with so much heart. Friends, we invite everyone to stay present, please, for another moment. To enable those of us who are in mourning, observing your sites, to recite the Mourner's Kaddish. Thanks to Harry Gilboa, who's holding our space, for sharing the words. You can put the name or names of those you're honoring in the chat now or later. And those who are not reciting Kaddish, please stay present, offer your compassion, your support for those who are, and invite them to rise in body and in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabba,
Amen.
Ve'amad, Yivrach, Yibute, V'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, Chaye, B'chol Beit Yisrael, Agala, V'zman Karib, V'imru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach, V'yamei Aleya, Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yit'olam, V'yitbaseh, Yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitkabal, Shmei Dekusha, B'richu, U'ku, La'ela, V'chol B'chata, B'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechamata, Ba'amiram, Ba'alma, V'yimru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemayim, V'chaim Aleinu, V'yavo Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen.
Amen.
Yaseh Shalom B'yomav, Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, V'yavo Yisrael, V'yachol Yoshvei Tevel, V'yimru, Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Friends, thank you so much. Before some of you leave, I'm just putting in the chat. Didn't mention it earlier, but mentioned it earlier this week. Sunday is a really special offering, World Day offering through Hamakom in the United Kingdom, the annual International Symposium on Jewish Mindfulness Meditation. And Rabba Mira will be teaching as part of that, and along with a lot of familiar faces, including a lot of folks from IJS. So put the link in the chat again. Please do check that out. No charge to that for that. Encourage you to join. Everyone's welcome to stay on, as always. Continue to just sit together or join in a conversation with our teacher, Rabba, Mira, and Weil about today's practice, and you're welcome to do so. And if you're leaving now, we hope to join us tomorrow. Sit in Shabbat together with Rabbi Margie Jacobs. And just a reminder about our series next week with Rabbi Sam Feinsmith starting on Monday. Mira, thank you so much. This was the stage of the Passover Seder known as Yachatz, breaking. And I guess I wanted to focus on, since that was really kind of central to your teaching and this experience of sitting with our brokenness, or the prompt that you gave us at the beginning about, correct me if I got it wrong, but I think it was, what is it that needs to break within me, within us, right? That was the prompt? Yeah. To consider that question, just to sit with that question, what needs to break? And breaking is such a central theme in Jewish mysticism. From the Lurianic myth about the creation of the world, which involves shvira, shattering, and it's in the Psalms. That God is Rofed Lishure Lev, the healer, brokenhearted, and Karov, Lenishbere Lev, close to the brokenhearted. So there's this profound interconnection between brokenness or breaking and divine presence, right? Which seems paradoxical. I think it might seem paradoxical to people, right? God should be near when things are whole and healed, but actually it's something in the breaking. So I want to invite you to maybe elaborate on that a little bit. And specifically, I have a question about brokenheartedness.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking that, well, brokenheartedness and the heartbreak of this moment, there's so many reasons to feel brokenhearted right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt to me like brokenheartedness is not just about pain. Sometimes our heart breaks from beauty, right? Or it breaks from love. We just feel our heart break when we are with somebody that we love so deeply, or behold something amazing. So that made me think about, what is that? What are we really talking about when you say heartbreak, and what is actually breaking open there? That's to put a little bit of a fine point on the question.
No,
Maybe I don't know if you can speak from your own experience about, like, what does that feel like? What is that experience when we touch into heartbreak or brokenness?
So it's a very, very vast question, and I'm going to try to focus, I guess, on just two kilo in one direction. There is natural brokenness, and that's the brokenness of the bud. That's the bud breaking open. That's the body of the woman breaking open at birth. That's the brokenness of the I forgot the name, but to become a butterfly. So it's part of the laws of nature, and this is also what I was trying to suggest earlier today, is that we tend to see brokenness as a problem or accidents of life, but first and foremost, there is something physiological, as like a law of nature, that growth implies that the previous container, how do you call it? Like I forgot how to use it in English, but
Shell? The shell?
Yeah, no, but like when you feel something to capacity, and then you just you
burst open.
You have to break through because it just you've exceeded the capacity of that space, and it's always painful. And in a way, that's what happens in Egypt. It's like we were done with being slaves. We were done with that, and then that's it. It just breaks through, and it happens bechipazon also, because there is something always brusque and kind of a little violent, and like it's tearing something. It's not clean, and it's, even if it's natural, the natural laws of growth. Think of teenagers also, right? it's not comfortable, it's painful, there is nostalgia. So a note also that what's natural doesn't mean that it's not painful just because it's natural. And then there is the other brokenness, the heartbrokenness, as you said. And I'm speaking about the accidents of life now and things that
Mm-hmm.
happen that break us.
Mm-hmm.
And I am sure if everybody looks at their own life experience, everything that we were able to overcome when we were resilient from something, it took us further, it took us higher, it opened us to something else. There is this thing. And so I saw in the chat someone posted this very famous quote from the Kotzker Rebbe, En shalem milev shavur, there is no nothing
Wholeness,
more
nothing
whole.
more than a broken heart.
And
Yeah.
it can be very difficult, by the way, to hear for some people who are in the midst of suffering, because they're like, leave me alone. And I think that needs
Mhm.
to be respected.
Right.
Only when we are on the other side, when we've moved to the other side from there. And then
Mhm.
the question is your question, which is a great question. You know, what is broken? What does it mean when we say? And I think this is where it's kind of subtle, because what can be broken, it can be my ego, it can be the beliefs I had. And
Mhm.
that's good news sometimes when my beliefs are broken. That's what I
Mhm.
was trying to suggest to you know about the situation right now. Like
Right.
and in all our interpersonal relationships, in our couples, with you know, when we hold tight, when we become very rigid in this is this is has to be, um, there is no room. There's just no
Mhm.
room for it, and someone has to break, and it has to be you. Like it has to be the other. But if I say, "Wow, what if I?" Because that's what happened in brokenness. There is something, and again, someone, I don't know if someone quoted this, but I'm going to say it, very, very, very famous, also like from Leonard Cohen, right? That it's
Mhm.
really through the cracks that something
Right.
can, and that's true.
Right.
That is true. And it's the problem of the human ego, but I'm not saying it in a negative way.
Right.
There is solidity to what we are. There are boundaries and stuff. And when you spoke and I'm so glad you said it, about the kind of when the heart breaks from beauty or from being moved, and it's it's very important actually that we don't
Mhm.
stay solid, because solid also means hermetic, and that nothing gets in.
Yeah. I'm also just, I guess, also the world of emotion, I think maybe plays a part in this, because I also was thinking about breaking down, like when somebody breaks down in tears, or breaks out in laughter, something about like cracking through that veneer, thinking about Joseph, for example, right, who cries a lot,
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
um, and can't restrain himself any longer. There's some restraint, maybe like as you're describing, with the ego and with our attachment to the status quo, even when we're outgrowing it. I also really love what you said about having that sense of
Outgrowing, that's the word I was looking for.
outgrowing the container, outgrowing the
Outgrowing.
container. And, it gets for many of us, that doesn't happen until, we're like feeling the squeeze, right? And we wake up and say, oh my God, this doesn't work anymore. Something needs to change. And then there can be a lot of collateral damage, sometimes when that happens, both for ourselves and for others, unfortunately. But there is new growth that happens and follows after that. Um, so I'm really glad you pointed to that. But I guess I was thinking about what's all encompassing about this breaking, whether it's out of beauty or sadness or loss or fear or grief, is it brings us into connection with deeper
Exactly.
emotion. We feel, and that's part of the road that you're describing, a kind of a roadmap, right, today, of
Yeah.
getting right. And in that, and then in the text, which is the PSS already, you said,
No, that was the Ishbitza, the
of
Mea
the
Shilach.
Ishbitz and Meir Shilach,
Mm.
describing this progression. And along the way, they start growing closer to God, and God pulls back, which is a whole nother conversation. What's that about? And then there's brokenheartedness. And then the brokenheartedness leads to, that really opens things up, opens for growth. Um,
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about the trajectory from Pesach to Shavuot and the Omer that's describing, I was going to ask the specific question I was going to ask you, very practical Seder related question for, we all need advice. How are we going to handle this Seder this year? So I'm thinking about, this is such a great prompt for Yachatz when we take the matzah and break it in half, right? Like what is, like your prompt could be the perfect prompt for that Seder. Like what needs to break in you? What needs to break in us? Not
Yeah.
just what is broken. That's easier to describe, but what needs to
Absolutely.
break? Like that's a good, that's the starting point. But then the Omer period is that period of broken heart, brokenness, right? And then it leads to Shavuot,
Yeah.
where that text goes, the maturation and the get to adolescence, I guess, hopefully by
Yeah,
Shavuot.
exactly. Exactly. And it's funny because I was thinking as you were speaking of all the plays on words, which are very meaningful, but like a breakthrough, right? When we have an insight is a breakthrough.
Mhm.
And then there is also breaking apart. And the counting of the Omer is really breaking apart all the midot so that
Mhm.
we can really go deep within this one and this one and this one and cleanse and cleanse. And we really need to be open for something to, like what you spoke about, connection. It's the word. That's what being broken enables, you know? Um,
The other part of it, strikes me as you're saying that is um, there is an inclination to do the spiritual bypass, which is to avoid that. Say, like, do I really need, can I get there without that? Like, isn't there a way to, get to that state of connection and bliss without? And the answer is really, of course, no. That's, you could try, but it won't work really, ultimately in the long run. And that the Omer is also a period of mourning, of grief. It's not really clear exactly what it's about, right? We've got all these legends about why is that, and so there are all these traditions about not getting married and avoiding music, et
Yeah,
cetera. It's like a semi-mourning period. So it strikes me that actually the feeling that we maybe avoid the most is grief. And
yeah,
that's, that really, there's so much grieving. I mean, there's been so much shock. There's been so much loss. Like grieving is like overwhelming, right? But that's what this period really is inviting us to do, to really open ourselves to our own heartbreak, the heartbreak of others, which, we have many, it's been a struggle to have capacity to hold so much heartbreak. And literally, there's so much that's broken. It's really,
yeah, yeah.
we need
Absolutely.
it. We need a nechemta for the last minute here. So do you have a
Yeah.
nechemta? I took us to a darker place there.
No, you know what? I think it's important to name it. There is some consolation in there. And then from the bottom of there is the light for real. And what is the light? Is that something gets broken so that something can be born. Like that's Tazria.
Mm-hmm.
That's, whether you like it or not. And I will say also, like, this is what happened to me on October 7th. And since then, I thought to myself, okay, now we're broken. Something is broken. And may this be the dawn of a new beginning. And that's my blessing to us. And that's why I insisted on the opening that it's a new month, but it's also a new year. That may this be the dawn of a new beginning where we show up for ourselves and for each other and for the world and for God from a place of humility, openness, connection, love, like a lack of arrogance, stopping thinking we know everything and they're good and they're bad. Just, may our hearts be broken open.
Can you hear that song? May it be so. Beautifully said. Thank you for that. And that is a nechemta. Nechemta, by the way, for people who don't know, is a consolation when you're dealing with hard things to end with a consolation. But there is, as you said, it has its own consolation within it. So thank you for that.
Mm.
All right, everyone. Thanks to Harry for holding our space today, for each of you
Yeah.
for being here. Mira, always a blessing. Wishing you an early Shabbat Shalom there. Lots of blessings your way and to everyone there. And we'll see you, I guess, post Pesach. So I'll also say Chag Sameach to you.
Yeah.
May it be meaningful. And we'll see everyone hopefully tomorrow to sit into Shabbat together with Rabbi Margie Jacobs.
Thank you,
Be well.
everyone. Thank you, Mark.